Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Look at your background.
Yeah, just finished her treatment.
Yes.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank
We're
you.
so proud of you and happy for your success. And please take it away because you have such a great story to share.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fung. Yes, it's been a bit of a whirlwind. I met Shay initially now, almost 10 years ago, 9 years, 10 years, something like that. No, it's been less than that. Sorry.
Yeah, it's only been about 4 years.
It's been 4 years. Sorry, because now my mind is still not completely back together, as you'll probably gather from everything. But my journey and my story really starts 10 years ago today. 10 years ago today is the death anniversary of my father. My father was never a smoker, probably not the best eater in terms of what he ate. But he was diagnosed with non-small cell lung cancer. And that's the kind of lung cancer that you get when you're not a smoker. Nobody really knows how he got diagnosed. Nobody knows how it all happened. But my mom and my dad were avid travelers. And one time when they decided to go to China, they came back and my dad was experiencing a lot of jet lag and he wasn't so sure what that was all about. And at one point in time, he decided it was time to just get it really checked out. And he thought he had had a stroke and he had a friend take him to the emergency room where the doctors did indeed think he had a stroke. However, thankfully for doctors and their second opinions, the doctor had found out that, in fact, he had a brain tumor. And the brain tumor was a metastasis from his non-small cell lung cancer. So he was already at stage 4. And at the time he was diagnosed, the doctors essentially gave him 2 months and told my mom to have my dad get his affairs in order. At the time that he was originally diagnosed, I had an infant at home. I had a 4.5-year-old and I had an infant at home. And at that time, I had gone back to work full time. I had a lot of help. My mom was helping me tremendously with the kids until she found out that my dad was sick and immediately went back to LA. During this time before he was diagnosed, she was going back and forth to LA to be with my dad. They had a second home out here. At that time, I was imaginable with an infant and a preschooler at home and a full-time job and also doing every sort of good wife thing that you could probably imagine doing. I did. I entertained clients. I went to charity functions. I did all the stuff. And there was a lot of things going on. And when I found out my dad was diagnosed, my world just turned upside down. But my dad was given 2 months to live. And rather than do hospice and make himself comfortable and really go into what the doctors felt was, the time that he should really just take with friends and family, he decided to fight. And he went through a brain surgery, and then he went through numerous rounds of chemo and radiation, all of which his treatment gave him about another 1.5 years. And it was on this day 10 years ago that after his valiant fight, he lost it. I remember specifically getting the call from my mom. At the time, I was back here in the desert. And this whole time, after his diagnosis and everything else, I had asked my office to allow me to go part-time so I could help my mom out. I'm an only child. I'm from a very traditional Catholic Filipino family, so we're pretty tight knit. And when somebody needs help, you go and help. So my office was fantastic. They allowed me to go part time, and I was kind of going back and forth with my kids and my nanny um, to LA to help my mom close down his business, close down his practice, and then get their affairs in order. And um, fast forward all of that time to the day 10 years ago today that he passed. Um, I remember thinking to myself, oh my gosh, this is more than any one person can take. This truly is any more than one person can take. And at that time, I was just in a state of, honest to God, looking back on it now, PTSD. It was a fight or flight situation, and I couldn't handle really anything except for helping my mom and helping her with all of the affairs and everything else. And I remember, fast forward from this date, um, I fast forward to Father's Day, um, 6 months after my dad passed. I remember still being in a flurry and trying to get things handled. And I remember I needed, on that day, it was Father's Day, and I had my preschooler and I had my uh, infant, and I remember one of them got sick, and so I freaked out, took her to urgent care, and while I was waiting for urgent care and to have a doctor see my daughter, just very weird and brief. My hair has always been long. It brushed against my right breast, and I remember just scratching it, and I remember feeling something on my right breast that I had never felt before. And I was very, very good about, wellness exams and self exams monthly and that sort of thing. But I had felt something that was totally foreign, never had felt before, never experienced before, nothing. And at that point in time, I knew something was wrong. I got my daughter in to see the doctor. We went through everything. And, with the grief of, having to celebrate Father's Day without my dad, here I am. And I know down deep inside that something is wrong because I felt this bump, this lump, this weird thing. So I immediately made a phone call with my doctor, and I said, I need to come see you. Now, previous to this, my dad's cousin, my aunt, um, had gotten diagnosed with breast cancer, and she had gotten the news that she was BRCA positive. And she started to do all the research. She ended up at UCLA, and she found out that that line goes down the father's genes. And so she had called me months before I found out and said, Eileen, you really need to get tested. It's something that's really, really important. I think it's really important that you get tested. I'm having my 4 daughters get tested. You need to do so yourself. Now, at that time, I immediately went in. I tried to get a mammogram. My insurance company said, no, you're too young. I was 35, not quite 36 at the time. They said, no, there's nothing to go on. I went and saw another doctor. He said, well, hey, can I get BRCA tested? And at that time, the hurdles for the insurance companies to okay BRCA testing was just through the roof. But my doctor submitted everything anyways. And of course, I got denied. So then fast forward to June, Father's Day is when I found the lump, and then it was a whirlwind of things that had happened from there. They brought me in, and I remember this vividly. The week after Father's Day weekend, I recall sitting in the waiting room, being called in, showing the lump to the doctor feeling it. And of course, by then, what do we all do? We Google everything, right? We're reading all these things online thinking, oh, it could be this, it could be that. It's just a million different things. It's just craziness in my mind. And it's just going a mile a minute. And at that particular point, they referred me to finally get my mammogram. And so they actually told me, you need to go now. You need to walk over from our office and go to comprehensive cancer and get your mammogram right now. So I did. And what I thought was just going to be like an hour or two appointment ended up being pretty much the entire day. I sat in the waiting room with lots of other women, and they all kind of looked at me like, well, you look perfectly fine and healthy and young. What the heck are you doing here? And I remember being called back and forth into the mammogram room several times. At one point in time from the mammogram room, I was taken to the ultrasound room, and I had gone back and forth from there several times. And at that point, I started to really panic. And, you're not supposed to have your cell phone with you in the back room or anything like that. And of course, I didn't. So I was just on my own. And, that sinking feeling in your heart just drops to your stomach. And again, what I felt on that Father's Day really just got reinforced when I'm being shuffled from one place to another, to another, to another. And finally, one of the really sweet technicians said, listen, I know you're worried because I can see the look on your face, but there's something that I saw. And thank God for this technician, because she actually stood up for me, because the on-call radiologist didn't think it was anything. That radiologist thought it was really nothing and it was just fine. It was no big deal because I'm young. There's no reason for him to think that I had breast cancer. Well, thankfully, my then husband knew somebody at Desert Regional, and he had called them, and he pulled some strings and was able to have somebody else look at my imaging. And he trusted that particular radiologist more than the first radiologist that I had seen. And indeed, it went from a whirlwind from there. Biopsy, then to every other test and every other situation. And I remember going back to my office the very next day, because I was constantly back and forth of my office. And I was like, I sorry, it's going to be another hour. It's going to be another hour. And in fact, I was just gone the whole day. And I said to my boss, I'm sorry. I'm just waiting for these test results. And then I go back into the office the next day, and I recall telling my boss and all my colleagues, well, they think it's something. I'll be back in about 3 weeks. And little did I know that 3 weeks would actually blossom into a year and a half off of work. I got the news that I was BRCA positive, and that my best chance of survival was to have a bilateral mastectomy, radical mastectomy with no nipple sparing, no nothing, just completely everything gone, and then a hysterectomy and a oophorectomy. And the whole gamut of very aggressive chemo at the very get-go, because although my breast cancer was the popular kind of breast cancer, right, the hormone sensitive and receptive breast cancer, it was very aggressive. In fact, the time that I previously had gone in to see my OBGYN was in November, and I didn't feel anything, nor did she at that time. And then I had a full-blown lump that was felt over the skin in June. So it was very aggressive, and they had to treat me very aggressively. So I went through all the chemo. I went through, the emotional loss of control and the way my life was, and everything else. And of course, my hair, because that's so much of our identity as women. And then it came time for radiation. And I remember going to the radiation oncologist, and at that time I was doing a little bit of the lawyer cross-examination, because I'd been through so much at that point. I didn't know if I wanted to go through more. And as I was cross-examining him, he kind of seemed to relent to me not wanting to do radiation, because at the end of the day, At that time, I was going to lose function of part of my lung and only have a short, or excuse me, not short, but a very, very small um, reduced risk of recurrence if I had done it. So at that point, I'm 35 and I'm thinking to myself, I don't want to lose function of part of my lung. I have so much life ahead of me. And the risk of recurrence is very, very low. It's lower just a little bit if I do radiation. So I opted against radiation, and thank God I did at that particular point. I remember, cross-examining all of the doctors that I had had and basically having them give me the pro-con analysis of radiation and everything else. Chemo was a foregone conclusion. I had to do chemo, and I had to do it aggressively. And people who know me really know me as being somebody who's super strong. And during chemo, there were days that I prayed to die because it was that awful. But I truly was like, I can't do any more treatment. And so it was almost as if I was talking to the doctor, and I said, Doc, like, I can't do this radiation. You're just going to give me the okay that it's okay not to do it. So I didn't. I went through all the reconstructive process, and I went on about what my life was as normal as I could. I continued on going back to work full time, helping my mom with my dad's estate, still trying to do everything as a very involved mom wants to with two kids, and a very a husband a husband who at the time was trying to build a practice and be there. So at that time, after I was sort of put back together again by the plastic surgeon, I would grab my wig in hand, still helping him entertain clients, still going to all the social and charity events and doing all that sort of thing, and still running nearly on empty. And then fast forward, I meet Shay, and I was ending my long journey, because when you have as many surgeries as I did and as much chemo treatment as I did, it took a long time. And Shay had just gotten diagnosed, and a friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours, through our daughter's school, actually kind of hooked us up together. And I recall people kind of saying to me when I was initially diagnosed, they kind of sugar-coated things, and I'm not one to enjoy sugarcoating. I want to know the reality of it so I can deal with it, and I can deal with it head on without somebody telling me things that may not end up actually coming to be a reality. And that's where I met Shay, thankfully, because she gave me the opportunity to be there for somebody and share my story, and hopefully have it impact her and help her with what she was about to go through. So as I was exiting this journey, she was entering it. So, fast forward, she going through her journey, and thank God, no evidence of disease. Things after my journey had happened, and a lot of my life prior to being diagnosed and being sick just was never going to be the same. I just couldn't keep up, and a lot of my relationships fell apart in the worst way possible, and I hit zero. And during that time, this was 4 years ago now, 3 years ago, when it got really, really, really bad. And I recall all the promises that I had made to myself about putting myself first, taking that time for myself, and really taking care of my own health before other things. So much of that fell to the wayside. And I look back now, today is the 10-year anniversary of my dad's passing, but today is also sort of the 1-year anniversary of me being diagnosed again with a recurrence of breast cancer. And And it sort of happened similar to the first time around. I had actually been sort of working out, and I thought I had popped a muscle or maybe popped my implant or something, but there was a growth in my chest that I felt that I hadn't felt before, and I wasn't exactly sure what was going on. And I, at that time, was, you know, redirecting my life, sort of rebuilding, and still rebuilding, in fact, and starting to charter new waters for myself in my life. And then I went to the doctor, and I went to my oncologist who was at City of Hope, and I said, listen, I don't know what this is. It's weird. It hurts, but when you manipulate it, it really, really hurts, but it's more bothersome than anything. And he kind of like moved it around, did a physical exam and all that sort of thing. And then said, this is very unusual. It's unlikely that it's recurrence because it's in your chest. It's not in your breast. But I'm going to go ahead and send you in for a mammogram anyways. And we're going to do all the testing and all that sort of thing. And he said, if anything, I think it's probably a burst implant. So I waited for the results. And of course, apparently everything happens near my birthday. And right around then I was diagnosed with a recurrence. And at that time I said, I'm sorry, what does this mean? It hadn't really hit me that I had gotten sick again. I thought, it was nothing. And it wasn't until his nurse said to me, she's like, Aileen, this means that the cancer is back. This means that, and I looked at her and I said, well, what stage am I? And she said, well, you're stage 4. And I said, that can't be, because I don't understand. Like, it's not like it's nowhere else in my body. She's like, well, technically it's stage 4 because it's a recurrence. It came back. It's localized, which is the best case scenario because we can actually handle it. We can actually deal with it. So I went through another surgery. They removed part of my chest muscle as much as they possibly could. They couldn't get clear margins because it was just getting into too much of the pulmonary system. And had both implants taken back out again and went through the whole thing again. And now, thank God, through research efforts, through all sorts of things, City of Hope, a lot of other hospitals and organizations and that sort of thing, chemo was not in the cards for me. But thankfully, the first time around, I did not do radiation because now radiation is a possibility for me. And I did do radiation. And in fact, radiation ended. And then I'm really happy to report that as of last Monday, when I got my scans and everything at City of Hope, I have no evidence of disease. My scans, thank God, were clear.
Yay.
Yay.
That is birthday present anybody could ever give you, right? I mean, hallelujah, Harry, thank God, praise be. But I will tell you, the emotional turmoil that left me and my daughters and my then husband really had a gigantic toll on my family. My mom is probably the strongest person I've ever known or met in my entire life, and she has been steadfast. Unfortunately, I don't think my then husband handled things very well. My daughters have handled as best as they could. My older one was in kindergarten at the time I was first diagnosed, and she still remembers it to this day. Thankfully, in terms of trying to shield our kids, I try to make it as fun, if you can make cancer fun, as possible. I got her in on the hair shaving party the first time around and everything else, such that one of the first questions she had for me when I told my kids that I was sick again was, does this mean we get to shave your head again? Which, thank God, that was her reaction, right? I mean, thank God it was like, oh, does this mean something sort of fun and not like, oh my God, is my mom going to die? And I think given everything, and now my younger one, she was still a baby at the time, so she really doesn't remember very much of anything that really happened. But I do think, though, that you know, cancer, no matter what, especially breast cancer, especially with women, because it has so much to do with our lives and peripherally the lives of our family, has such an impact on your relationships. And for me, I know that that was my personal experience. And I think that, in the 3 years prior to me being diagnosed again, the amount of stress that impacted, that happened after I first got sick, really took a physical toll on me. I really didn't do a whole lot of mind-body connection immediately after I got sick. I kind of just went right back into it, thinking I was going to be Wonder Woman, and the same sort of workouts that I did before would be just fine. And there wasn't, I've always been religious, but there wasn't really a time where I would force myself to stop and take some time to kind of center myself, meditate, think about things, and ground myself. That I just had so much energy that it took a toll on my body again. And now, now that I'm incorporating all of that into my daily routines and my daily life, I really do believe that so much of the unprocessed emotions and unprocessed feelings from the first time around, and everything else and the toll it took on my relationships really ended up taking a toll physically on me again. So, now after everything, after quite frankly, years of therapy, years of redoing everything from a different lens and everything else, I am taking that time. I'm sort of forced to, I can't go through this again. I mean, I technically, I suppose I could, but who wants to? So, but I'm happy to say now, on the 10th anniversary of my dad's passing and the 1 year anniversary of getting the diagnosis that I'm sick again, I'm happy to report that I'm cancer free. They have a very short leash on me now, but there's no evidence of disease. I'm living my life very differently than I did before.
And I'm gonna break in and put you on the spot again, because what she didn't tell you is today is her actual birthday, you guys. Yeah. So that's it. That's called living hope in color at the utmost possible way. And I think all of the women on here who are survivors and have also have a story to tell and share, and they've lived their hope in color, like we've all shared. Aileen, you definitely helped me going through my process. And we could never, I remember the day you called to tell me your cancer was back. Like, you said the same words I said, like it was just reversed. And so, that's what we are. We're warrior sisters. We're helping each other. And how else from some of you guys, what have we learned through this process? Like Aileen is sharing, she's putting herself first again. We do that during the process, and then we forget, right? Because life goes back to that new normal. So if anyone wants to say anything to Aileen, it is her birthday. So yeah.
Happy birthday, and I'm glad that there's no evidence of cancer. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And please feel free.
Great news to get for your birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful birthday. And
I think that you're giving yourself the greatest gift that you can give, which is taking that time and spending time and processing with thoughts and with actions that are going to be letting you see in front of you and see beauty and see calm and see peace and health and vitality. And I wish you a new year of splendid health and vitality, Aileen. Very happy birthday.
What for the rest of us moms, and most of us are moms, I think, on this call tonight. I know Patrice, Diane, Elaine, Gail. What are some of the ways that you've now live your life in color? When you were going through your process, you know, Aileen, it was about her dad and her kids and her mom. Those were her rocks going through that process. What were some of your, what was something you could share going through your process for others? And Margie, Jalen, even, you know, what are some of the things that helped you get through the days and the nights of some of the scariest times of our lives, right? You have to take yourself off mute.
For me, I don't have kids, but I learned how to look at things one piece at a time so that I didn't get overwhelmed. I didn't inundate myself with too much research. I listened to my doctors. I trusted my doctors and obviously read over the medications they were going to be giving me. But I broke everything down into really small goals with something, a celebration at the end of it. And that's what got me through. And it went, I mean, I was in really intense treatment. Mine was a very aggressive cancer as well. I was in treatment for almost a year. So between chemo, surgery, radiation, and all of that, it's actually, I just passed my year outside of treatment. Thanks. But it was really like, okay, first I got to get through these two chemos, because I was doing two chemos at one time. So then once I get through those two drugs, okay, now I just have to get through this other one. And that one was for 3 months. So, okay, I have 1 month down. And so it was just like this countdown that made it seem doable. You know, it's kind of like running a lap or whatever, like, okay, or working out, like, just like 2 more minutes, I can do it, you know, like that's honestly what kept me going. And then what helps me not freak out about, I have triple negative breast cancer, so there are no hormonal therapies for me, which Shay, I believe, has as well, or had, well, we're still not 5 years out, so we're not cured, but it is a higher chance of reoccurrence. And so that can be overwhelming here and there, but I try to, when I start freaking out about that or getting overwhelmed with the possibility of recurrence, I just tell myself what I do now. I did everything that I possibly could do, and I'm doing everything that I possibly can do to make sure it doesn't reoccur, and it's out of my hands, and I will deal with it if it comes back. Like, I can't deal with it every single day, but if it comes back, I'll deal with it then. So that's future Patrice's problem, if that happens.
I love that you talk to yourself, future Patrice. Like,
Yeah.
you're looking into the future, and that's huge, right? You're going to be here a long time.
Right. And the crazy thing is that I had known so many survivors who went through different types of treatment. I have one friend who found it, did surgery, didn't have to do anything other than surgery, did her one surgery at one time, like cut it out, did the reconstruction, everything in one step. And then I have an aunt who did a lumpectomy and radiation, another aunt who did chemo and a double mastectomy and reconstruction. And so, like, I have all of these different examples that when I was diagnosed, I was like, okay, this is going to be really, really hard, but I'm going to survive and I'll get to the end of it. And it's just going to really suck for a while. And that just kind of helped me get through. Now, life after cancer is a little bit different, a little tricky. Didn't realize it would be so tricky, but yeah, I just stay hopeful and remind myself of what I can control and what I can't.
Sloan, did you get the food?
I really appreciate the way that you are very much internal and you're listening to your thoughts, and you have a great deal of you have a good way of comforting yourself in those difficult times of anxiety. And I really appreciate that quality where your internal thoughts are tempered, because they can get really, really out of control. And sometimes it's just that sometimes the simplest things that can really recolor the picture, so to speak. Okay, my future self will deal with that. So you've just said, whew, I'm just going to kind of put that over there now, and I'm coming back to where I am right now. And I really have to applaud people that have that ability, because it is very healthy. And that's one of the many ways that Shay's Warriors, some of the modalities, are dealing with that mind-body connection, because you're really connected. Your mind and your body and your thoughts are real connected.
I have a comment for Aileen.
Hi, Nate.
The mysterious voice there without the picture.
Hi,
Start my
Nate.
video. Wait, I can start my video. There, I'm alive. Yep, I don't
Hi,
have
Nate.
my shirt on, so I couldn't show myself. Eileen, first of all, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing and being vulnerable in that amazing story. Like, I have a face like this because how could anyone go through all of that? Do you know what I mean? Like, and it's amazing to be able to come out of in the end and have a happy story to tell. And I think it's an amazing being a role model for your two daughters to have seen you go through that. And I know going through it with Shannon, Shay, you always think you have to be strong. And I think that is an important thing. But I also think the vulnerability in a relationship and a vulnerability with your kids, like you have, I mean, they're 5, you know what I mean? But means a big deal. And for you to understand too, what life is like after cancer. I haven't had to go through it, but how you've changed your life. I think your message, I hope this is recorded, or you'd be willing to tell it again on camera, or maybe not on camera, but on whatever you'd want. Because I bet you a lot of people, all you other ladies that have went through this, how powerful it is to hear that story for the first time. I mean, you lived it, you've told it before. So to you, but to people who have never heard it, that's crazy. Like that, what you've went through. So, and inspirational to people who are going through it, I think.
Thank you. I just, when I look back, I'm kind of not really like a superstitious, I'm more of a coincidental sort of person, but just the dates of everything kind of just blow me away. Just how it all kind of, you know.
That's Shay and her number 11. Yes. It's more than coincidences that are out there.
Exactly. So I think, you know, there is a bigger force, call it whatever you want, but there's certainly a bigger force out there. You know, I tend to believe that some of the things that have happened the last 4 years, certainly, absolutely the last 3 going to now, really have been a product of, I mean, I'm religious, so I really believe it's a product of God just redirecting me. I'm over it, but you know, like, you have to believe that there's something that's going to happen that's going to be great at the end. And I do believe that is the truth, and that is why we're here. I do think that it just, when you, for me at least, when I stop to think about all the coincidences in terms of the dates and all that sort of thing, there is a bigger force out there. For me, it helps me know that there is that bigger force out there, and for me, it's God. Like Patrice said, there's just those little things that you kind of talk to yourself about, to kind of remind yourself on, kind of, you know, like you said, you know, if something happens in the future, then I guess I'll deal with it then. But today is just not that day. But I think especially as women, even just generally, not even having to have gone through any of this, we all have a very difficult time, I feel, staying present. And especially as women, we take care of so many things, not only for ourselves, our families, everybody else, everything else going on, and if you happen to have a career outside the home, it's just so many things going on at the same time. But staying present is probably the biggest challenge. And so I think that's something that we all have to work on anyways, but that's the one thing I can say has really been a challenge. But I think Nate's also right, that to the being vulnerable part, because so much of that is also the healing part. So.
How about, does anyone else can you relate or connect to that sharing of, that whatever it is, divine intervention, faith, I know, Aileen, you were super close to your dad, and so was I. So anyone who's followed my journey knows that at the very end, that day that I was pronounced Ned, I call it now, I had these heart stones that I pulled out. And I remember like just grabbing 3 heart stones and being like, thank you, Dad. I know you were here. And I pulled the last heart stone out, and it said, welcome. And it was just like, I knew he was with me the whole time. And I still get choked up because I know he was there every single time. And I know, Aileen, it's your dad's birthday. It's your birthday. It always correlated. So, these are the stories of hope that we're able to provide to others that do relate. There are things. So if anyone else wants to share too, please jump in.
Relating to like something about like, so I lost my mom 5 years ago from my diagnosis, which will be 7 years. And when I was getting ready before my surgery, they wanted me to get my onca test taken. And the one lady came into my oncologist's office, and she's like, oh, they've already picked up for the day. And then she ran out of the room and she ran back in and she goes, hold on, I got him to wait for you. Well, her name was Josie. My mom's name was Josie. So I was like, Mom, because I really needed to know if I was going to have chemo or not. And it was like so time sensitive, And so I looked at my husband and I go, that's my mom. Like she made that deadline happen for me. So that was one part of my journey where I felt like my mom was actually with me when I didn't really physically have her.
Yeah, I had so when I was diagnosed, I didn't know at the time that younger women don't typically get breast cancer. So when I was diagnosed, it was because, I moved back to the desert because my grandfather had passed away. He had a massive stroke and it came out of nowhere. And I felt like, okay, I need to come home. I was living in Orange County and I just didn't want to spend any more time away from family, especially my grandmother, who I knew was going to be having a hard time. So I moved home and I kept telling her, I used to stay the night with her once a week. And I kept telling her, I really want you to watch the show Parenthood with me. The grandfather from it, he reminds me of Grandpa. And I just really think that you would like it. Well, we got busy and she wouldn't watch it with me. And I was building my house. I was doing construction. So I wasn't going over to her house as much. So I start watching it. And because I was missing my grandpa, and spoiler alert, one of the girls gets breast cancer. And I was just I had always been somebody who checked myself pretty frequently, but I was checking myself all the time, like once a week. And out of nowhere, it popped up. And had I not been, literally, it was one that you could feel over, like I was laying down and you could see the lump. And it was as if it appeared out of nowhere. And, I feel like I found it because I was missing my grandpa, and then like the day that I went in to have to meet my oncologist the first time and find out my staging, my mom brought a journal to take notes in. And my grandmother had passed away a few years prior from breast cancer. And it was the journal she was writing in when she was diagnosed. And my mom just grabbed a random like notebook, and that's what it was. And then there was another time where when you're going through treatment, sometimes it's scary to go to sleep at night because you wonder if you're going to wake up in the morning. And when I was going through treatment, I had a dream where my grandma came to me and she sat on the side of my bed and she just looked down to me and she was like, just rubbing me. And she was like, "You're going to be fine. You're going to be okay." And then I woke up. So it's just, I definitely have a very strong connection with God, but I'm not a religious person, but I'm very, very spiritual. And I just feel like it was just ways to kind of bring me peace and to just make me aware of, I don't know what's going on. But I'm definitely a believer that everything happens in a way that it's kind of supposed to happen. Not that we're supposed to get cancer, but at least be guided to discover these things. I don't know.
Something. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine, honey. I just think that that's just everything looking out for everybody, you know?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment too, kind of like what you were saying, just like everything happens for a reason. I think that is such a cliche, but something that I've lived by so far and like I continue to live by because again, like obviously I think it wasn't the best thing that my mom got cancer, but at the same time, look at this. Like we're all here today because of it. Like she wouldn't be here and created this program for everyone and like helped like met Aileen or anything like that or met any of you guys without it. So it's brought so many people together. And I think that is just such a positive thing. There's positive things that come out of it too. You see our cat. And then another just point too to like Patrice that you mentioned is that you're gonna like if you do get cancer, that's like for future like Patrice's like to handle with. I think that's important too, that you just aren't living in fear. And that's another important thing that everyone has to do, especially in this like crazy time we're living in with COVID and everything. And how I know my mom is susceptible or like in that percentage of people that are, and all of you guys as well. And it's important to be cautious, but then also not to live in fear and like work through that. And important for me to like not live in fear of, well, what if I contract it and give it to my mom and all that. So just something to add.
And I want to add that I didn't even tell her to say
that. Well, Miss J, I have a little girl younger than you, and having children is very hard. I took the technical route and she knows every body part now and she helped do my drains. So it doesn't just affect the moms because we worry about you guys too a lot. And throughout my journey, I had a friend who always sent me Bible verses. And right before this started, she had given me the devil whispered, I have it on my card here, "You can't withstand the storm." And the warrior replied, "I am the storm." And I carried this with me to every treatment. It was on my bathroom mirror throughout all my cancer. I am the storm. I can do this. I can get through this. And I did. And then last week I went and got my tattoo on my arm. Oh, that says "I am the storm" with a breast cancer ribbon. You know, I'm BRCA positive. I just had my last chemo in April of this year. My mastectomy was a year ago. I had to have a hysterectomy and a gallbladder removal and a hernia repair and then reconstruction. But I am a warrior, and I have a constellation on my stomach of all the scars that shows that I am a warrior, and my daughter is going to be smarter and more prepared because she watched me go through it. And so we always share with people what happened, and I encourage everyone to get cancer insurance because I had cancer insurance, and cancer usually makes people go bankrupt, and I got paid for every treatment I had. So when my daughter turns 18, I'm getting her own policy, and that at 18 months
18 years and 1 month, then she'll get her BRCA test, as I'm BRCA too. So, and so is my mother. So, you know, it's knowledge. Knowledge is power. And all of this is just preparing us and making us strong, because that's what we have to be every day. So my living with color is I am the storm. There's nothing I can't withstand, because I am a powerful, strong person. So Miss J, you got a strong mom too. So you are going to be able to withstand any storm, because she has raised you right.
And I love that thank you for sharing, Gail, because I know it, you know, in the beginning, it was a little touchy, right? Just like it is for all of us. And this is very vulnerable for us to all be telling about our stories, telling about our journeys, especially when, well, I mean, my daughter's used to it by now. Cancer is a daily thing in our house. We talk about it openly and freely. But you're right. Knowledge, as the teacher says, knowledge is power. And one of the things that I love about that, Gail, that you also said is, I'm the warrior. You know, we are all warriors for other people. A warrior means just that, being able to kind of go to battle for somebody else, not in necessarily fighting ways, but for Shay's warriors, it's mental ways. So when Patrice, you share your story of hope and color to somebody else who might be another triple negative breast cancer survivor, man, that's power. That's powerful. From not only the heart, the mind, the soul, but that connection that you now share. It was the same with Aileen and I when I was sitting in the park at a Kohl's parking lot, and I literally, this woman who I never met in my life calls me as a DA, calls me on her lunch break, and I say, tell me the worst of the worst, because if I don't get the worst of the worst, then I'll be okay. And she did. She took that time out of her busy schedule, because she knew she already walked through the fire, and she knew where my heart was and my mind was, that scared thing. And we connected, we bonded right away on that. And it was the same. I know, you know, going through some of it, I'm sure Elaine and Margie, Krista, Freddie, Diane, you know, it is part of our journeys, in my belief anyway, is to share our story, because when we share our stories, we give hope to others. And that hope, you guys know, is the rainbow. I always say it, when I see a rainbow, I post it, because that's the symbol of hope. And that's why today's Warriors lives and thrives, is we want to live in color, and we want to share your stories and other people's stories, so that other people can live with that hope. Because if you can find that person that you connect with and that has similar stories, you now have a buddy, a friend, and you're not as scared as you were 5 minutes ago. Yeah, well, now you have that phone number. You can call somebody and say, hey, I have a question, you know, or maybe that person has a referral to someone, or maybe they've thought about it. It's not necessarily meaning that you're going to have the same exact cancer, because we know we're all different. Every cell in our body is different. Every treatment will be different. Every medicine, every doctor, every opinion. But we have someone who really mentally, physically, and spiritually sometimes understands what we're going through. So thank you guys for being vulnerable and sharing. And if there's anyone who wants to say any words of someone who might be listening or watching this right now, what is one thing that you might share with them that you wish you had known when you first started?
That someone always has it worse than you do, that there's always people fighting that are in a worse situation. And I'm just grateful, like I have a job and I'm alive, like I'm going to be able to see my daughter. So I'm grateful. It could have been worse.
That's really a good point. My journey started 2 years ago. This month is when I had my mammogram that pretty much found my lump. And 2 months later, I had what I thought I was going to have was a lumpectomy. And 4 days after that, I got the call that the margins were not clear, so I needed a mastectomy, and they wanted to do it the same week. And so 5 days later, I was in and had a single mastectomy with no reconstruction. I'm fine with that. All my goal was to recover and get to my son's wedding, which was 3 weeks after my surgery. And I feel so blessed that, I dodged chemo and radiation, and I still met Shay through the breast cancer support group at Lucy Curtsy. And I just think when I get to be there and see what their journey was like, and I just feel so blessed that, one, I have these warriors that support me and that may have gone through a hell of a lot more than me, but they are still strong. And there's days where we all shed a tear, and it's okay, because I would rather do that with my warriors than my family to worry about if I'm thinking about what's going to happen to my other side, or if something is. And I kind of understand what Patrice said. I'll deal with that if and when I have to, but I kept a healthy, very good attitude with thinking that one's healthy, I'm going to do okay. Cancer isn't new to me. We lost my dad 25 years ago to lung cancer, and then 15 years ago, one of my sisters had cancer and had a lumpectomy, radiation, chemo, and then closer to home, my husband celebrated 4 years this month. He had thyroid cancer, so our 4 children were like 2 years apart from having their dad and their mom both go through it. And so we were just like, look, we fought it with dad, we're going to fight it with me. And so with that kind of support and energy, we just keep looking at color like Shay tells us to. We really do. We have no reason to think that it's bad. Of course, if it comes up, we fight more. But right now, we just keep looking at the light and staying positive.
Well, I just wanted to say something, Margie here. I attended the breast cancer support group, and everyone there and everyone here tonight, you are all my inspiration, truly. I had no idea. There's no family history for me in breast cancer. I do now have friends that have had to experience this journey. But I remember coming into that room and looking at all of the ladies in there, and I thought to myself, my gosh, there's no way these people can have cancer. They look so fabulous and gorgeous. And I just thought that, okay, then I can make it through this, right? So everyone there, everyone here, you all inspire me to keep going and give me hope. And a year out, I'm now having that feeling of contentment. It's a feeling because my testing is done. I've done what I can do. I've done what I can control. And, I've got to go forward from here. So let that feeling and that wash of contentment come to you and experience it in that moment. But I am trying new things, going back into training and getting fit again. I'm on a no alcohol thing, so trying some of those non-alcohol mixers and learning a lot about clean makeup and all of those other wonderful things, and eating good produce and finding out what's good for my body and what I like to eat. So you all give me hope and have kept me going through all this. And thank you all for being warriors, which I never even knew about. And Diane, thank you for introducing me to that, and to Shay also, because it never occurred to me. So now I wear a bracelet every day that says warrior, and it's written in Morse code. So my dad was military, so I'm a military brat. So it's like this special little thing that I know. But I just wanted to say thank you all so much.
I love that. Thank you, Margie, for sharing. That's amazing. I just want to, is anyone else, would anyone else like to say anything before we close tonight? No. Well, I want to thank you, Aileen, for sharing your incredible story. Thank you for being my warrior when I needed you. And thank you for taking this journey with us through Shay's Warriors, because Shay's Warriors was born because of a blog that my friend Paula started, and a concept that I brought to Aileen, who was the first person that I literally the first person who found out I had cancer, and sitting down after many lunches and stuff. And I just said, remember I told you, was it 3 years ago? I said, we got to help other people. I just knew we needed to help other people. And this is the way we do it. Shay's Warriors does have a nomination of Nominate a Warrior or a Hometown Hero, which is an oncology, who works in the oncology field, whether they're or a caretaker. So if you go to shayswarriors.org and you see that, it is absolutely free to nominate someone that you know who is done with their active treatment. Our nonprofit organization gives back in the mind-body connection. So health, fitness, different things. The month of November is Gratitude Month. And please be watching what's going to happen the month of November. It's also the month that we kicked off Shay's Warriors. So it's birthday month, and it's my beautiful friend Eileen's birthday today, my birthday coming up next month, and we could sing to you if you like. I'm not. I won't go that far. I won't go that far.
Yeah.
You put it on the spot, but I just want to thank everyone for showing up tonight. Please give your hope to others. Continue. I know, Patrice, you share the stuff about your Mary Kay and the makeup and all of that and your eyelashes. And those are tips. Those are things that people need to know about and need to hear about. And it does make a difference. You do make the difference in the lives of others when you share your story of hope and living in color. So thank you all. Thank you, Rosemary. Thank you, Dr. Fung, for also being the host of this show. Monthly, we meet on the 2nd and the 4th. Right.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And the 4th Wednesday of the month. Next month, we go back to normal. And Rosemary, you'll be talking about
winter skincare.
If you guys have any questions, please DM us. Please find us on Instagram or Facebook. Thank you very, very much, everyone. Live your life in color. Bless.
Thank you so much. It was a wonderful evening. It really was. Great sharing.
Thank you, Aileen.
Bye. Thank you.
Happy
Aileen.
birthday.
Bye.
Happy birthday, Aileen.
Thank you. Happy birthday.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And really.
Ever.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Goodbye.